Okay, shall we get back after this? Before I launch into my torturous, but occasionally rewarding relationships with the fairer sex, you're asking what I'm asking. What am I wearing and why? I mean, look at this. It gets worse. They're actually suit pants here. All right, here's the deal. And goodbye coat and open collar. So we have two bartenders on this place. They work outside around the pool. Who in the heck would go to a pool in Antarctica? Becomes the question. And the answer is, there are literally idiots doing this. Well, those guys get lonely because, I mean, at night it's like 10 around here. And during the day, it balloons up to 30 or 40. So, me being me, I figure they need a little company. I go out and have a couple of drinks and get the heck out of there. Well, they're there for like an 8-hour shift. Oh, and I also tip like a crazy person, as I always try to do. And so, these guys apparently grew fond of me. One's named Red, and the other is Borny. And he says, just remember, weekend at Bernie's. And you'll remember me. So, these guys rang me up last night, and they said, we want to treat you to dinner at the Sterling Steakhouse, which is the nicest restaurant on this thing. And we're buying the whole thing, and we're buying the wine. And so, okay. But, I mean, it was like completely wondering, what's this about? And I sit down there, and eventually here comes one of them, and ask, what is going on? What did I do to deserve this? And he said, we appreciate the tips, because nobody does that on these ships. But you come out when it's freezing and shoot the bowl with us for a half hour or an hour, and we appreciate that. You're a nice guy. So here, we'll buy you dinner. So, I'm gonna go around the ship and see other things that I might like to have and do some more sucking up. And I'll own this place. All right, women. This right in front of me says a 20, a 10, and 3 5s, and then it says my 16 pack. 20, 10, 3 5s. Years. 20 with Sherry, 10 with Cindy, 5 with Fifi, 5 with Roxy, 5 with Lori. A 20, a 10, and 3 5s. And my 16 pack. And the 16 pack, I have had some kind of a relationship, some very brief, but I'll throw them in the hopper, more than one date, a month, 2 months kind of thing. 16 different gals. Now, my relationships with women are my crappiest performance in my life, and I don't think it's even close. I never got this figured out, and I tried, believe me. I had a great line earlier, and even if one of you gave me that great line, I'm claiming it and I'm using it. And that line is, I've always loved women, cars, and residences. Unfortunately, they've all lasted about the same amount of time. And isn't that true? Why has it been that the women in my life didn't work out in terms of real long-term relationships? Now, I did have a 20-year with Sherry, not short. I had a 10-year with Cindy, not as good as 20, but not bad. And a 5-year with Fifi. Now, if Fifi hadn't died, who knows what the future might have brung. We might have been together forever, or that first 5 years are usually more fun than year 30. You know, at some point, you get so used to each other, most people, that you take each other for granted. It gets kind of stale. So who knows? Fifi and I had a rock and roll love affair, but you know, we only had those 5 years. Now, my number of babes, 16, doesn't hold a candle to Ryan's 88. But I didn't have any breaks at all until the current self-imposed 3-year. But, come to think of it, neither did he. So, why the carousel of cuties? That was just my garbage can. Why the carousel of cuties? I have been terrible with confronting women, or often confronting anyone, and also terrible at arguing, and therefore I've avoided it. Cindy would tell you I was horrific at arguing, and we can talk about that when we get down to her. She was a notable point about that. Somewhere between me being a total wussy and Ryan being a bit of a hard ass, somewhere in between there might be the right approach. So here's my chickie list. Just names: Pam, Deana, Sherry, Fifi, Miss Piggy, Cindy, Roxy, Val, Kelly Farrenmonth, Roxy again, Melissa, Sue Flynn, Cindy, Lori, Kathy Ranslum. Kathy Ranslum, by the way, is a great friend. See her a couple times a month to have coffee. We shoot the bowl for a couple of hours. She's Lori's cousin, and she called me to see if I was okay a month after Lori dumped me. And I met her at their cousins' reunion. Lori and Kathy are cousins, and they had people fly in from all over. It was a 3-day affair, and as you might expect, by the time it was done, everybody knew Phil, and I was an honorary cousin. They're having another cousins get-together June 23rd of this year, 2023, guess who's invited? And guess who isn't? Lori. 'Cause anyway, that killed me. Interestingly, this is weird. This is all the women whose names end in E, not necessarily EE, the letters, but the sound. Cher E, Fee, whose real name was Kath E, Sind E, Smiley, and just occurred to me, Sind E, Smiley, Rox E, Valor E, Kel E, Farron Month, Cindy, Hole, Lore E, Kath E, and might have been, but it didn't work out, Mayor E, K. So, with those two lead-ins, here we go. My little Pamela Pooh, my first love, we met at Kmart where we both worked. She was a willowy lass, 5'9", angular type build, with big, beautiful eyes. It took me 7 months to even get to first base with this girl. All my fault, and what a waste of talent. I was scared to death of and unbearably shy around young ladies due to Big Jack scaring the shit out of me. By the way, he's been gone 5 months now, not a tear, not one. And I cry about a lot. Weird. Anyway, the Pam months, Dad gave me the famous sex education talk. Now, this is no kidding. The talk was, don't get intimate. That's literally all he said. That was it. Obviously very effective. And he and my mom, Margie, were such good role models of affection and love between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. I remember seeing them kiss once. I kid you not, once. After a time, I don't know how this happened, had to be a virgin insemination. We thought Pam might be pregnant. She went to a doctor to confirm or deny. I was working at the Big K that night, and she came to the parking lot where we worked, and I asked her, Pam, are you pregnant? And she said, yes. Now, she waited maybe 2 seconds before she told me she wasn't. She said, I just wanted to see what you'd think. And I'll tell you what I thought. To that day and forward to the present day, in those 2 seconds, that's the fastest my mind has ever worked. I mean, my whole future flashed in front of my eyes. Pam fired me. Not a good start, because I got flirty with my next girlfriend, Deana. I had such bad self-esteem in those days. Look, I know. How can that be possible? I had such bad self-esteem. I couldn't believe that a gal was batting her eyes at me with apparently lust in her heart. My sibs are still pissed about Pam. She was that popular. The next morning, after Pam fired me, I went to her house and, no shock here, cried my eyes out with her mom, Doty, short for Dorothy. I thought of Vern, her hubby, and Doty as if they were my second parents. Ditto them, me. We were on a love fest. Pam's stories. On a date, I was driving J&M's VW Bug. I said to Pam, watch me just miss this curb. It was 2 lanes merging into one. I hit the curb and I broke the Bug's steering wheel. And I have no recollection of what kind of serious trouble I got into, but why was Big Jack ever pissed at me? I mean, what grounds did he have? One of my favorite stories, a classic about the difference between Pam's parents, Vern and Doty, and mine. Big Jack called Vern and Doty at some late hour, probably near midnight. He asked Doty, do you know where Pam is? Doty replied, yes, she's with Phil, and hung up. It is a shame that that one ended. She was an excellent first love in so many ways, and I was stupid. Really, I was just not necessarily stupid. It blows self-esteem. And again, being raised by Big Jack, scared to death, shy. Oh well. So, last I knew, she ended up being the paralegal for the managing partner at one of Omaha's premier law firms. I even saw her there one day. I was in with one of my attorneys, and she opened the door and started asking a question, looked over, saw me, very uncomfortable for both of us. Sadly, and this is, after cutting me off, she married a wife beater, the one she replaced me with. And no, not the underwear, the other kind. Of course, it took her about 10 seconds to find a new guy. Shocker, and she made a horrible choice, even worse than me. More Pamisms. I weep every time I spray Pam vegetable spray. And I often do a selfie of me losing it and send that around to the Sibs that are still pissed. And it rips me up to make Pam's lasagna, a recipe we all use 45 friggin' years later. Pam wore a perfume called Charlie. I don't know that that's even around anymore. I still remember the scent, though. Okay, here's a dating story from that time. We had a gal at Kmart named Sharon Niemeyer. Just a sweetie. She was lanky. She had a hot body, kind of like swimsuit model, like me. And obviously, I was slowly overcoming my shyness, and my vision was good in those days. And I took Sharon Niemeyer to a Seals and Crofts concert in Omaha. Pretty good concert, by the way. Sharon didn't say a word, literally, all the way to Omaha. I was living in Lincoln, at the concert, and all the way home. And you won't believe when I say not a word, not a word. Now, here's why. I was still with Pam at the time. I don't know what was going on between us that I took Sharon Niemeyer to a concert, but it upset Pam's two overly loyal best friends. And when they found out, well, those two best friends kinda painted her Chevy Noah with red toothpaste. I think it was close up. So that experience was the subject of my first college speech. I'm getting on here. Entitled Communication Breakdown. And I remember my knees shaking like crazy giving that speech. Maybe I was worried about my white Ford Pinto getting close up next. Oh, I got an A on that speech. And now, on to Deana, the vixen who stole me from Pam. I can tell you two things about Deana that are 100% true. First, I ruined her life when I fired her. I am not kidding. I am not proud of it. In hindsight, I wished it would have worked out differently, but I will use the words, I ruined her life. I feel horrible about that to this day. That gal loved me beyond words, and at that age, 20-ish, I didn't understand what that could mean. I fired her because she was too clingy, which, again, hindsight would have been a wonderful trait given my undefeated streak of failed relationships. I recall one Sherry Thornburg comforting Deana as I screamed at her and she wailed on all fours in the yard of one of my friends one night. What a dick. So, number one about Deana, I frickin' ruined her life. Number two, I can also tell you, and I mean this sincerely and with some very much certainty, if she and I had married, we would have been together forever. guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed. The gal worshipped me. You're asking, what the hell? You don't know if she eventually would have grown tired of my shenanigans or gladly come along for the ride. But I think we were a together forever thing. But without that move, firing Deana, I perhaps wouldn't have met Sherry, Fifi, Miss Piggy, Cindy Smiley, Roxy, Val, Kelly Farrenmonth, Melissa, Sue Flynn, Cindy, Lori, and Kathy Ranslam. And life would have been very different. Heck, you guys wouldn't be listening to me. After her firing, here's the ruined her life piece. After I fired Deana, she laid about the house for a couple of years depressed. And I mean, it was bad. She didn't want to do a damn thing. Her parents finally told her, get over it, move out of that house, move to where your brother Steve, who is a Marine, is stationed in Virginia. And I mean, it basically forced her to get on with your life. While she was there in Virginia, she met another Navy man, Tom McEwen. Love bloomed. But that would change. Deana got preggers out of wedlock, as they say, had the appropriate shotgun wedding, and they moved to Lawrence, Kansas. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, KU. They live there today, all these years later. But the living ain't great, and it hasn't been for a long time. Deana and Tom live in the same house, but they don't speak except at the dinner table. They've carved out the rooms that each of them live in. Tom actually goes on an annual week-long journey to see his Marine girlfriend back in Virginia. And yes, Deana knows it, and Deana truly couldn't care less. They would part, obviously, probably should, but they can't afford it. Neither one of them makes enough money to support a household alone, but when you put it all together, that's the only reason. What an inspiring reason to stay. But I think certainly 2, 3, 4 generations ago, people didn't get divorced because they didn't have any choice due to economics. Okay. My next piece is on to my biggest mistake, bar none, which is driving Sherry Dawson mad enough that she divorced me. And I have told my boys that is the single biggest mistake I've made in my life. And whatever number 2 is, I can't even tell you. That's how bad that was. Okay, I'm going to sign off and give Sherry a fresh start.